So I want to welcome everyone to our November board meeting, and we have asked Dr. Walski if he would open us in prayer and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Bow their heads. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for this day. We thank you for the opportunities that you afford us each and every day. Lord, please guide this board in making decisions tonight and through the rest of this year, and just guide us daily and help us glorify and honor you with our words and actions. It's in the holy and precious name of Jesus Christ I pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Dr. Walski. The next item on our agenda is the consent items. It consists of the agenda, minutes of the October 13 meeting,
There's nothing on there.
fundraisers, FCCLA, fundraiser for the Lincoln County High School girls basketball, and a fundraiser for the Lincoln County High School varsity cheer.
Make a motion, we accept them.
Have a motion by Mr. Madison to accept the consent items. Have a second by Ms. Barksdale. All in favor? Unanimous. We have no public participation, so we're going to go into financials with Ms. Bufford.
All right. Let's start with our general fund. You can see we're at 33.33% of our year. We have about 23% of our revenues, which is normal for this time of year. We should start getting that tax money in. You can see that's kind of low, 4.47%. But that should start coming in now that the tax bills have gone out. Everything else looks good. A couple of them look high. You can see the local intangible recording tax, the real estate transfer tax is high. According to the budget, we're at about 58%. And the title ad valorem tax is at about 70% of what we budgeted. So those may be some that we may want to amend upwards a little bit if they continue to go as they are. But that speaks good for the economy. That's the real estate market looking better than it has been. So that's good. On the expenditure side, you can see we're at 31.22%. So we're well within our budgeted expenses for the 33% of the year that we have gone through. On the balance sheet, and we've got about 1.8 million in the bank. Fund equity dipped below $1 million, but hopefully that will go up once we start getting those taxes. I looked back last year, this time we were at about 1.18 million, so we're about 186,000 lower than last year. But I don't think that's a problem. That's just probably some extra expenditures we had at the beginning of the year this year. And you can see we started with the 2.375 million fund balance, and now we're at the 998. On the SPLOST fund, it is looking good again. We're back up to 68,309, so it is higher than last month and last year. You can see both of those were in the 50s. So whatever made the SPLOST go up looks like it's going back up again. So that's a good thing for us. As far as the balance in the SPLOST account, after our payment that we made September 30th, it was a little bit low, but it is coming back up. So we got $241,819.06 in the SPLOST account. In the bond tax account, we got $372,492.25. That gives us $614,311 towards that bond payment that will be due April 1st. No change in the capital projects, just a little bit of interest. So we've got the $52,537 available for a project if we need it. We also have the principal's accounts for the quarter ending September 30th. So you can see the details on those. Elementary school started out with $38,172.48. Ended the end of September was $30,544.97. Middle school started with $63,508.13, ended with $61,197.79. The high school activities, $42,000 334.65. They ended with 45,193.03. That font's a little hard to read. I may get Beth to change that back. And for the athletics, they started with 14,285.22 and ended with 31,827.60.
Anybody have any questions over any of the financials that Ms. Bufford has brought to us?
I do.
Yes,
Go
sir.
ahead.
Ms. Bufford, on let's say, for example, the last two, the athletic, Lincoln County High School,
Uh-huh.
you got on here like on general athletics, you have income expenses, and then you have transfer in, or somebody does, and transfer out.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like 21.5. What does that mean, transfer out?
Well, what they did, if you look, you see the football fund has got 20,000 going into it.
Uh-huh.
So they took it out of general athletics and put it with the football to cover
Okay.
it. And then there's another 1,500 that went to softball to cover some softball expenses.
Okay, so they just move it to a different account
Yes.
within this? Okay.
Yeah, it's all within athletics. It's just an in and out. You see those two columns add up to the same amount. So
Yes, ma'am.
it's all there. That's just, I can't remember if it was last year or the first year when Coach Pollock was here. He wanted to detail all of the sports and then transfer the money from the football, which is the main one that makes the money, to cover those sports, but we'd see what we spent on that. So I think Coach Honskis may do it a little bit differently this year. So he's trying to do more what we had before, which was put all of it in general, because if it's only one that's making it, then you just put it all in that one fund and then you just cover
So
those
ticket
sports.
sales is basically the income.
Yes.
Okay. But now we're doing all ticket sales. So I mean, like the softball ticket sales, everything went into general
I
athletics.
think that's the way they're doing it now, yeah.
Okay.
One other question.
Yes, ma'am.
Heitman's finished. Ms. Bufford, I'm on the same page right now as
Okay.
Mr. Heitman,
Okay.
and I think I heard what you said, but I think I missed a little bit, so just for clarification. Where did the 20,000 come from?
The money was in the general athletics account,
Mm-hmm.
so they transferred it, see the line below that has a
Mhm.
transfer out of 21,500.
Mm-hmm.
So 20,000 went into football and 1,500 went into softball.
Okay, so my question is, I hear what you're saying, but I don't see, which line is the general? Is it the income line?
Well, general athletics is the one right under football. Starts with
Okay,
27,
I see
30,
it now.
20.
All right, so
And
it
then
was
it's got all the
42.
deposits there.
So it was 42, and they took that out of the 42?
Well, yeah, they did. They took that out, and they took out the expenses of 15. You go across, begin and balance, income is what they took in for that quarter, expenses is what they paid out, and then they transferred out to football and softball.
Mhm. So all of this income was, I'm looking down at the total. Okay. All right. My other question, Mr. Chair, goes back to get back to it. I think it's the sheet before splash. Let me see. Well, actually, I have two questions. One's on the page 1 of 4.
Okay?
Is that 4.47 correct at the end of local ad valorem taxes?
Yes. That's 4.47% of our budgeted amount.
Right, of the 4 million.
Right.
Do you know when you'll receive another check from that?
I do not know.
How often do they send it to?
She started doing it once a month.
She's gone to once a month. And you said the probability of the 1191/1192 is due to real estate taxes? Is that,
No, now that's the car tax. The title ad valorem tax is the purchase of new cars.
right,
The intangible recording tax and real estate transfer tax are
that's
the
a
ones.
58.25,
Yes,
okay.
and I forget which one's which, but one of them is the tax you pay when you close on a house.
Yeah, I know, I
That's-
just thought you said that and I wanted to
Yeah,
clarify.
that's the
So
real
I-
estate
I-
one, yeah.
You kind of got muffled in the math, so
Yeah.
I couldn't hear you. The support service, so we haven't utilized much of that money so far.
We spent 29.75% of that, yeah.
No, I'm looking at the 7.
Oh, I'm sorry, that's pupil services, I'm
Yeah,
sorry,
I'm looking
yeah.
at the 7.7.
Support, yeah.
It just seems like usually this time of year it's a little higher, that's all.
That's mainly the technology, so maybe they haven't had as many expenses this year. I don't know.
And do you have any concerns of fund equity being under $1 million at this point?
Not right now, as long as we get that tax money in, we'll be okay. This is, normally the time that it dips down, so just, I prefer that it stays above $1 million, but, I think we're okay right now. It's at 998, so it's not bad.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Any other questions for our finance, or our financials? Okay, thank you, Ms. Buffers.
Yes, sir.
Next, we have a presentation. 2 months in a row, we have a presentation from former board members. Tonight, we have Ms. Gail Remsen.
Okay. All right, I can't talk with this mask on. Ms. Freeman, if you want to move.
Well, you can, if you don't mind going to that side,
Okay, just as long as I'm at the camera piece.
there, they got you.
That'll be fine.
Okay, that'll be fine. Okay. All right.
No, I meant on that side over there by Miss Barks.
She'll stand over here.
Yeah,
Ms. Remsen,
Alright.
you can stand right on that side of the board over there,
yeah,
and that
that's
way,
fine.
That'll pick me up over here.
it should. Yes, ma'am.
I don't really care about them.
Well, it may not, to be honest, I'm not sure where it picks up, so.
Okay. All right, the reason I'm here tonight is, and I'm gonna read this because I could not memorize it. I recently read in the Lincoln Journal a suggestion that the old high school building be named for Dr. Randall Edmonds. I love that school as much as anybody. My mother graduated from there, as did I, and all of my children graduated from Lincoln County, the old Lincoln County High School, and it'll always hold special memories for me. However, I think naming or dedicating this board office to Dr. Edmonds would be a more appropriate option. Dr. Edmonds had a vision and he carried it out. He had that vision, and you can correct me if my dates are wrong, okay? The land where this office stands, and the high school and middle school and all the surrounding fields were purchased and closed on in March of 1990. And the board office was completed in 1991, and the new school opened in 2010, right? Dr. Edmonds was instrumental in bringing this all about. He was passionate about us having a new school. And I served on the school board for 10 years, and I'm proud to say that I voted to build a new school. Dr. Edmonds became the school superintendent in January of 1981, and he served as our superintendent until he retired June 30th, 2011. He was superintendent for 30 years. 20 of those years in this board office. When he retired, in June 30th of 2011. I feel that we were remiss, and I take part of the blame because I was on the board. I feel we were remiss in not doing this dedication or something like this at that time when he retired. I'm here to ask the board to consider dedicating or naming this board office after Randall, Dr. Randall, is it G?
G. Randall.
G. Randall
George
Edmonds,
Randall.
as soon as possible while he is still alive and well and can be proud of all he has accomplished. And these are just looking over the internet and finding stuff that people have done. These are showing like brass figures would be a bit, Dr. Edmonds' brass face of him. Now this right here was already on the right side of our building. One option, which I don't think this is big enough, I personally, I would want it bigger, would be to do it on the other side of the entrance. When you come in, you got this entrance and this entrance. And I know this is not up to me, but I'm just stating my opinion. If it were up to me, that would be a big brick wall out front, dedicating this building to him, but it's not up to me. So what was is there another one after that? Okay, all right, and just, you know, if it's approved by the Board of Education, local donations for bronze plaque and installation, and I will make a sizable donation to that. If y'all decide to do it. And of course, it would be up to y'all to create the text for the plaque and set the date for dedication. And I'm not here to ask you to vote on this tonight. I'm just asking you to give it some consideration because I think that it would honor him more to have something here where his vision was. I always call him a gentle giant, but I think this would be much more appropriate than the old high school building. And that's all I've got to say.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Ricky.
Okay, all right, so can I go home?
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Russell?
I can get home
Okay.
town and watch Jeopardy.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
And as she said,
Thank you for listening to me.
you know, we had a proposal last month, and you know, we said we would listen to opinion from the community, and I think at this point, I would recommend that we do the same with this proposal. Listen to get community input before we try to put it to a vote.
Mr. Chair, I would even suggest setting it aside until January 2021 to give the community ample time, or later, whichever. But
Okay.
at least till then, to give the community and the board ample time to hear all concerns. So I think this ought to be tabled until then.
Okay. Thank you very much.
And I'd like to make that in the form of a motion. Or is the suggestion strong enough?
I mean, I don't think it requires a motion, but as far as from setting the agenda, I agree with you. I think that would be a good time to look at it and bring it back up in January. So,
Okay.
thanks.
Mhm.
Next, we have special education disproportionality share.
Dr. Gumby is going to present to us the information on disproportionality. As he's making his way to the front, this is very positive news. We wanted to share it with the board so that you knew where we stood. And this disproportionality started before Dr. Gumby took office, but we still want him to present it and show good news and good faith that our special education department has done very well. So, Dr. Gumby, it's all yours, sir.
Thanks, sir. I think the first few pages is just a letter from the State Director of Special Education, Dr. Zephine Smith-Dixon, and it's showing that we are compliant with our policies, practices, and procedures. Keep going. Keep going. And what we'd like to see is no further action. Just keep going. So I won't hit on these.
Tell me when to stop.
Just keep going, no further action. So all of these standards and compliance issues, we are found no further actions necessary. All right, so we'll start right here. This is lagging data. So we're talking about data that was from June, ending June 2018. So when you see FY19 determination, so you're looking at about almost 2.5, 3 years old, that we're dealing with this data to discuss if we were disproportionate or not. Great news, if you just look at this data, Lincoln County, student count, students suspended greater than 10 days, 0. None of our special ed kids were suspended over 10 days. Out of 151 total special ed kids, and that's for FY19, and then FY18, 0 students, sped kids. So that's good news. So we were not disproportionate there. Keep going. All right, this, if you can scroll down just a little bit.
Hold down.
The other way, back up, I'm sorry, up.
Yeah.
Keep going up a little bit so I can let them see the category.
Okay.
This is discrepancy. So this is how Lincoln County compared to the state of Georgia. I'm sorry, go back to 4A, indicator 4A. Okay? Oh, we've done that down, I'm sorry. This mask. All right, so again, by race and ethnicity, we had 0 students. So of course, 0 for all races. And that's for FY19 and FY18. Okay, keep going. All right, total discipline removals. So the total discipline removals is not the number of students, it's the number of removals from the class. So that's not 13 kids, that's 13 incidents. Okay? So out of 68 kids you see, for example, we had 13 incidents of black students removed from the classroom, and that's 0.7285. And that is below the threshold to be disproportionate, which is greater than 2%. So no findings on total discipline removals for Lincoln County schools. All right. And I did want to point out that, as you see, it's a great job of the principals, district administration, students, and parents. Our categories for total discipline removals have gone down every year for the last 3 years. So for black students, it went down from 19 in FY17 to 17 in FY18 to 13 in FY19. And then with our white categories, 11 down to 6. So again, that's a great job on principals kind of managing behavior. And we're going to talk a little bit about RTI and PBIS and how that plays a factor in cutting back on discipline. All right, duration and type, again, no findings. Again, the number has to be 3 points or greater, and you see our black students at 1.2337. So, and our white students, 0.5282. So again, it has to be a risk factor of 3 percentage points or higher. So no disproportionates there. All right, identification. This is what we want to talk just a few minutes about. And a lot of you have been around and you do understand what happened back in the days. Black students were identified more often than other races as being special ed. And so, again, this is why I guess they do this report. But I can assure you that you have people here to make sure that we don't over-identify kids. We actually, when we test them, we don't just give one measure. We actually give several measures to make sure when we categorize a kid for disabilities, that they are that disability. So for the second year in a row, we were above the 3.0 threshold with intellectual disabilities for black students. Now, these kids function, their IQ is below a 70. So again, this is their disability. And there is no over-identification because when they're tested, and again, if we give more than one test, and this is the actual manual that our school site uses, and she uses it to a T and makes sure that whatever we get, when we get the results, that it is what it says. They are this category. So we have our moderate intellectual disabilities, our mild, our severe, and our profound kids fall under that intellectual disability category. And because we're so small, if we get one kid in that is either one of those I just announced to you, then it just skews the numbers. And so being small hurts us, that if that went probably to a 14, we'll be at high risk. But again, we're just a small district, so sometimes that can compound the issue. All right, so that was 2 years in a row that we were over the 3.3 risk. If you go down, you'll see FY18. I'm sorry, let's go back to Hispanics. So just what I said, there's one Hispanic student in the district who speaks out of 16. And the child needs speech services, and there's nothing we can do. But if you look at our risk factor, it is almost a 4 because there are 16 total speech students, and one was Hispanic. There's nothing really you can do, we can do. And so there's great, we can explain that all day long. Okay, so those are the kind of things that we have to take with being a small district. Okay. All right. And again, when you don't see any color of the red, blue, or yellow, that means we were not disproportionate. But again, if you look at blacks again, there was 11 students that particular year, and we were at the 3.8, and the year I showed you was 2019. That was the second year in a row, and that's why you saw the yellow on that on FY19. Okay. Okay. All right, and then now kids placed outside of the classroom. This could be any other setting other than in the classroom. We were disproportionate on blacks, and again, but the issue was the environment race count was below 10, so they don't even count that. It just shows us that we would have been if our N would have been over 10, and we're sitting at 3. Okay, so we're not disproportionate there. Okay. All right, any questions?
What, describe placement again, what actually is?
That's a child who could have been placed in alternative school.
Okay.
That's a child who can be placed outside and Ms. Arthur, help me out if you need to. That's a child who's been placed in a resource setting for half a day or the whole day, more than 40%. They're not in the general ed classroom. But I do want to give kudos to Dr. Edmond and Ms. Kirkland before me, and then Ms. Cassidy Stein and Ms. Carla, who had to get all this data together to send back to the state to prove that our policies and our procedures and our guidelines are in place, that we are actually not over-identifying kids in special ed. Yes?
When you say we're disproportionate, what scale are they working with? I mean, we looking at the whole state of Georgia versus us?
When you look at disproportionate data, you're looking at your school. So our students compared to the other students in the school. When you're looking at discrepancies, then you're looking at our students versus the kids in the state.
Okay, yeah, but yeah, way back up there, you had like a 13. Way, like the first thing you covered. I mean, you got these numbers here. I just trying to, what are we measuring against? So I understand the disproportion. Like 2018, yeah.
Okay,
That's 19, that one right there.
Yeah, that's the total number of incidents. So of black kids, there were 13 incidents of either OSS or ISS.
Right. And you got the state of Georgia. You came up with a number that would identify us as a risk ratio, which was, what was that number?
3 percentage points or greater.
Okay,
and so you see black was 2.0.
Right, that's
So
the state.
that's the state.
Okay.
And we're well below that at 0.7258.
Okay, I'm just trying to figure out how they arrived at that 3.
There is, yes, but that's just the set. That's where they set it at a 3 or higher, and that means blacks are 3 times more likely to get OSS or ISS, but right here, we are less than 1%.
Right, I mean,
So-
versus the state of Georgia,
Yes.
we're very low too.
That is correct, that is
Yeah.
correct.
Dr. Gumby?
Yes, ma'am.
One quick question. In this part of special education,
Yes, ma'am.
it only, my daughter was in special ed, but she was in the gifted
Gifted.
line. So does any of these numbers reflect that category?
No, ma'am.
of special ed, or
No, ma'am.
just this this
This
is a
category,
specific
with the
category?
disabilities.
Good, because people have a negative connotation when it comes to special ed.
Absolutely.
But the gifted program is also a part of special education department in the U.S. Department of Education in this country. And it's not a negative thing, and it's not a black thing, it's not a white thing, it's a human thing, where everybody does not have the same abilities for one way or the other. But it is not by any fault a negative thing, and I would like to see the negative connotations, because there have been children who graduated from this school system who were special ed and went on to college and was 4.0. And I know some of them, so, you know, and they weren't in gifted. So I think sometimes last names and just classifying children, and I'm not saying this happens here, but classifying children because of where they come from, where they live, and who their parents are, and what kind of behavior they exhibit, can sometimes be the reason, the psychological trauma that children are experiencing in those environments. And then they come to school and they still get those environmental ramifications in the school system because they're not dressed right, or they may smell a little different, etc., and so on. So I'm glad to see, because I was here years ago when this wasn't the case. So I'm glad to see that the numbers are coming down with the disproportionate among those. But I just wish that it wasn't about black and white, that it was about children versus children and humans versus humans. Because I think when you present something like this, people think it's so, and it's, I'm not saying you, but I think when material like this is presented with the mood of this country and the craziness and the racism, it gives people more opportunity to not do harm to our children. And this is a great report, don't get me wrong, but I'm just hoping people will accept it as information and data and not a entitlement or privilege to harm human beings. But thank you, you did an excellent presentation. And thank you for giving credit to those who went through the process of making this report, because I remember it was a hard job, and, you know, and they worked hard. Thank you, Doctor.
Any other questions for Dr. Gumby? Okay. Now we're moving to our policies for review.
Policies for review, GAD, professional learning, GBCA, communications, and GBR, work conditions, will remain as written. Policies for revision that needed to be changed, JD, which is discipline. And if you look at that on the very first page of JD in discipline, it starts with definitions. Definitions A, B, and C are just fine. D is crossed out. Progressive is no longer part of the state plan and the state policy. It starts at D and works all the way down into page 2 to where the state has changed and updated its definitions, so we had to change and update our definitions as well. So that's an update there. And then on page 4, I believe it's page 4, we went from may solicit to require the signatures of students and parents or guardians in acknowledgement of the receipt of such student code of conduct. So that's the update to JD. And then the update to physical examination is due to state law changing the physical requirements effective July 1, 2020. And you remember, this was actually effective July 1 of 2020, not 21, and they moved it due to COVID-19. But all students who are new entrants or transfers into a Georgia school in the 11th grade will require proof of a booster dose of the meningococcal conjunctive vaccine unless their first dose was received on or after their 16th birthday. And I'm going to let the medical expert tell me how bad I brutalized that. Okay. Because that's not an easy one for me to pronounce, but that's the change to that one. And that's all for policies.
Mr. Chair, I have a question on two of them.
Go ahead.
Dr. Light, page 4 of JD.
Yes, ma'am. Let me get there.
You changed may solicit to require.
Yes, ma'am.
And it says that the signature is just to acknowledge that they received the code of conduct.
Right.
And I see that there is no OCGA code behind that requirement.
The OCG code is down below on page 5.
I see you have a code on D, but not on A.
I believe the OCG code and the Board of Education rule above covers all of those.
I know that require, what I'm asking, what's the prevalent of the signature? It's required, but it says it's only to show, acknowledge, receipt.
That's correct.
So that's all that's going to
That's
require.
correct.
It
Requiring,
doesn't mean that they read it, doesn't mean that they understand it,
or even agree with
or
it,
even agree.
but they have received it. That's the
So-
idea. So they're
okay.
still responsible for it.
Responsible, but not in the legal sense. Okay. The other question is, I have them marked, give me a second. The one for teachers, which one was that one?
Professional learning,
Yeah, it's
GAD.
We didn't change that one, but okay.
It dealt with, here it is. GBR.
Working conditions.
Yeah, it says any teacher or employee who is tardy to work 30 minutes or more without a valid excuse. Number one, my question is, what's a valid excuse? And it says, shall be docked a half day's pay. And I'm asking, number one, is that half day pay docking on 30 minutes? And that's it.
That was placed in there prior to me with the idea that we would not have chronic tardiness. And it was an attempt to curb chronic tardiness. We left it in there to give us that flexibility, but to my knowledge, we do not have an issue with that at all today. So it was left in there as an opportunity, but probably not going to be used.
Well, I disagree.
We have chronic tardiness?
No, with the part that I read, Dr. Lane.
Okay.
I didn't read that part you did. I disagree that 30 minutes should equate to a half day's pay dock. And I would like to understand what a valid excuse would be, because if I'm in rural Lincolnton and I got a flat tire, it may take me an hour to get it changed because I'm not a man. And we have a lot of female teachers, you know, and we don't have the access of calling, what's them people that come fix your roadside, what's it
AAA.
called? Yeah, roadside assistant will be here in about 3 hours. So That's why I'm saying, what is a valid, would that be classified as a valid excuse? If I didn't have roadside assistant and I got there and changed my own tire, would I still get And you can't expect them to call because ain't no cell service up my way, you know, and it's halfway down Augusta Highway. So I'm just trying to understand, because if it's not needed, then the chronic tardiness, in my mind, would be effective enough without that particular sentence. Our teachers are supportive, they're hardworking, they try to get to work on time. I don't know, do they get there on time? They try to get there on time, and I don't believe in threats and intimidation, and that just kind of turned, you know, I marked it, I asked my question, and I proposed to this board that we strike that sentence.
Well, you brought up a couple things as far as, do we as a board define, and I don't think we need to define what is a acceptable excuse or for tardiness, but it does need to, it needs to be in something that is known. But then, as you said, if we're gonna have it in here, then it's something that we need to be able to stand by, and if we can't stand by it, then it doesn't need to be in here.
Exactly. And those good people out there, Dr. Waske, forgive me if I mispronounce it. I said, Miss Arthur, Miss Burke, I think are the principals of the 3 schools, am I correct? I think, with the exception of Dr. Waske, they've been here for some time and they know their staff. I think from what I'm hearing, with assistance of others, Dr. Waske, you're learning the staff, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So I think that we should, and this is from y'all's page book, give them a little more trust to be able to do the righteous thing. And if they had somebody chronic, then I'm sure they would report it to you, Dr. Light. But maybe we won't always have a Dr. Waske or Miss Arthur or Miss Burke, and someone may go haywire and start docking people for 30 minutes for a half-a-day pay. It's just not a balance. 30 minutes and a half a day, that's not a balance. I think we need a better picture of what's balanced.
Understand?
Let them make it up after school, which they do all the time anyway. Let them make it up with the phone calls they get off duty. You know what I'm saying? So I think it balances out if it's under an hour, and I'm sure the principals would let y'all know if they needed to dock somebody. So that's all I'm asking. That's just kind of not a good sentence.
Understand?
Have any of y'all ever docked anybody a half a day?
I have not.
No, sir. If we have an issue with a teacher, we document it on their evaluation. That's how we handle it.
So do any of y'all feel that that would be horrible if we took that out? It would cripple you in doing your job? Okay, thank you.
So Dr. Light, you have a recommendation, so if you want to present that,
I will
Next
bring it
month
back
as
to the
a
next
review?
board meeting, absolutely.
and we can look at it as a revision, I mean.
That's
So-
correct.
Can I ask quick, how long's that been in there? I mean, is there a reason why it was put in there, Ms. Freeman, back in the day when you was earlier?
It wasn't in there. I don't know when it got put in there.
Okay.
Dr. Light be able to tell you, this has been reviewed, it was revised in '89.
So it's been there
That's what
since
it
'89.
So it's been since '89, excuse me. And it was first started out in '78.
Or, yeah, it could, it's, the
So.
way it's written, it could have been revised, that
We
part
don't
could have
know
been
what
revised
part.
in 2015 also.
But we don't know what part, Joe. I can't tell you.
We've
We'd have to go
reviewed it.
through minutes to see.
I'm just curious, I mean,
These are revised, revisited every 5 years according to Georgia state law.
yeah, I said review
Yeah.
2010, review from 10, 5,
And sometimes in the reviews, if it's a small one, I don't know how they're showed up this time, they don't always say revised if it's just a word or line or two, so. Depends on who's keeping record.
We will bring it back in December.
Okay. Next on our agenda is superintendent's reports.
I wanted to share, and I put it at everybody's seat or table, and I think that Ms. Kay has it up there, but it's going to be difficult to read. As all of us remember, we installed LED lights in the district at the middle and high, here in this building, over in the technology building, and over in the elementary building. And there was conversation about the lease payment that would have to be made, and would we be able to reap the type of benefit financially to be able to afford that lease of these lights. And if we didn't, according to the contract and the lease, that Georgia Power would have to pay for that and to make the amount correct for the lease. So starting, it was the 26th of May, I believe it was, when the last final walkthrough was for Georgia Power and us to go through and look at all the lights. So we pulled the June 2019 to June of 2020 electric bills, and we did it for July, August, September, and October. And as you look at the savings across the board, and understand that the old school did not get LEDs. So the savings, if there's any at the old school, is probably from just turning the lights off. But the LEDs are saving us a great deal of money. And if you look across the very bottom, those are summaries of the month of June, the month of July, the month of August. So the total savings in 5 months is $53,765.36. And the lease payment is $52,619?
$691,
$691.
$52,691.
So we have already surpassed the lease payment in 5 months
lease
with,
payment is for a year.
yes, sir, with these LEDs. So I wanted to share that these are making a difference. They are helping in the classroom because they can adjust with the rheostat to be able to reduce the intensity of the light or increase it if necessary, and they are saving us some money. So I wanted to share that tonight. I also had one other item, and Ms. Burt, would you like to present that one other item?
You can go ahead. I mean, I don't mind.
Well, the idea was if you were not here, I was going to read it. I don't mind reading it, but go right ahead.
I just wanted the board to know that back in August, Dr. Light had sent out an email about an opportunity, a grant opportunity that was called GEM, Girls Empowering Program grant opportunity. And I sent that out to my faculty, and Ms. Corliss Parks responded saying that she would like to take that program and fill out the grant. And she did that, and we found out this week that she received that grant. So we are excited about that. What that means is, and it's all, the grant is funded by the Atlanta Falcon Youth Foundation. And what that does is it will give Ms. Parks the opportunity to be a facilitator for a program that will empower our young girls at our middle school. They will come up with some kind of program through personal fitness, through activities, and they will this summer go through a leadership summit. So it will teach them leadership skills. In year 2 and 3, we will receive $1,000 for both of those years to go toward the program that will empower those girls to step up and be leaders in our school and our community.
Great.
So we're excited about that, and appreciate Ms. Parks for doing that, and thank her for her work that she already does with our young ladies here with the Flag Corps, and congratulate her on filling that out and doing that for our community and our school.
Thank you.
That's all we have for the superintendent's report, sir.
Okay.
Well, not like, good job with electricity.
Well, thank you.
Lights.
Thank you. Very glad
That's a
that
big
it's
savings.
helping. Yes.
It's $10,000 a month, what it looks like.
We could easily use the savings, because the CFO will find a place to spend it. She's like that.
I have a question on your report.
Okay.
We have you gave us the LED lights from June of 2019 and June through October of 2020.
Yes, ma'am.
Why are the other months of 2020 missing?
November, we don't have the information yet, 'cause we don't have the electric.
No.
It's a comparative.
I
It's there for
understand.
comparison.
I understand what you're comparing, but I hear your savings.
The lights weren't in
The
then.
lights were installed in May.
The
In
end of
May.
May, right,
That's
the
what-
26th of May.
Right, that's why I'm asking.
Okay.
So I couldn't remember if it was March, whatever. They started in,
The whole district had them installed and approved on the 26th of May was our final walkthrough. So that's why I pulled the June, because that was a fair comparison for the entire district and for each building as opposed to a partial.
because I would have liked to have seen the whole year thing. That would have just made, more sense.
And we will probably have that in May.
Yeah, it'll be a year then.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, we have personnel decisions in executive session. Need a motion?
Make
to
a motion.
A motion by Mr. Hartman, second by Ms. Sparks. All right, I want to bring our meeting back to order. Dr. Line has recommended, and I make a motion that we hire Ms. Stevie Chapman to the position of media clerk at the elementary school.
Second.
We have a second by Mr. Heitman. All in favor? Opposed?
Abstain.
401. And that is all I have. Need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
We have a second by Ms. Barksdale. Thanks.
Have a wonderful evening. Be careful getting home. It is wet and yucky out. Thank you all.